Good morning. Good morning to you too. I'm Bruce Elfant, Travis County's Tax Assessor, Collector, and Voter Registrar. And this is a very special day in Travis County and throughout Texas, and thank you all for being here with us. It's a credit to the state legislature and to our Travis County Commissioners Court that we are the first in Texas to offer businesses and nonprofit organizations an affordable way to reduce costs for their environmental impact projects and to be able to upgrade their properties. I find it most appropriate and satisfying that the first PACE project in Texas is for Temple Beth Israel, and it happened to be signed by the only Jewish tax assessor in the state of Texas. So it's very appropriate. It's also appropriate, but not surprising, that Rabbi Folberg sought out the PACE funding, because during his more than 2 decades with Temple Beth Israel, he and his congregation have been in the forefront of interfaith dialogue, civic engagement, and environmental activities. Please welcome Rabbi Steven Folberg.
I appreciate that very generous introduction. I'm really happy that all of you are here. I looked up and saw these people and thought that it must be a Jewish holiday, and then realized that that couldn't be the case because we started on time. So I'm very, very thrilled and honored that we are taking part in this and that we have the happy distinction of being the first PACE project in Texas. And I want to say that this is a tremendous opportunity for us that we would not otherwise have. PACE, this program, is making it possible for us to do work here that will not only enable tremendous energy efficiency and thus lightening our environmental footprint, but also to take care of our people. If you saw the problem in the handout sheet, we had a situation here last summer where our HVAC system that was really hobbling along just completely gave out, and we had little ones in our preschool being put out in the hallways and fans and everything because it was just unlivably hot here in the building. So we get to fix that. Also, for us, this is a second step because about 1.5 years ago, we became the first Jewish institution in Austin to go solar. We have a pretty large solar array up on the roof of our education building. And now what it means is that the power that's generating will be put to better use and not being sucked up by an inefficient system, which we're really excited about. I know we have people here from lots of different backgrounds, so rather than being presumptuous and offering a prayer trying to speak for everybody, I'll simply offer a Jewish proverb, which is also on your sheet, but it seems to me to be the best thing that I could say, although I'll say it in Hebrew, first of all, because in Central Texas you don't get to hear enough Hebrew, and secondly, to prove to you that I'm a rabbi and I know some Hebrew. So the quote is from the Mishnah, about 1,800-year-old text. Rabbi Tarfon famously says in Hebrew, Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, v'lo ata ben chorin lehibatel mimena, which translates as, you are not required to finish the work, but neither are you free to abstain from it. When we look at work like environmental stewardship, caring for creation, whatever terminology you want to use, the problems are enormous and can be daunting to the point of putting someone in a place of helplessness and despair, which is a place that we can't afford to be. And that proverb says, you can't fix it by yourself. It requires cooperation, but be a part, be involved. And PACE is enabling us, I'll say it one more time, through its ingenuity and through its cooperation, it is enabling us to do something that would be impossible for us to do otherwise. So I'll close just with another Jewish expression, which is that sometimes in Jewish tradition, when you want to wish someone well, you say to them, may you go from strength to strength. So I would say that about the PACE program. May it too go from strength to strength. And I'm, again, thrilled that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. When I first brought the PACE project to Judge Eckhart, she told me that I had to get Commissioners Shea and Daugherty to co-sponsor. I thought she was kidding. She wasn't. What the judge understood was that PACE should be a bipartisan project, and she was right. Through PACE, businesses will be able to obtain special funding that will enable them to reduce energy and water costs and add value to their facilities. It also enables the PACE participants to be better stewards of our limited energy and water resources. Please welcome Commissioner Gerald Daugherty.
First of all, thank you all for coming this morning. And Rabbi, thank you very much for having me in your place of worship. Bruce did lead off by commenting that the chore that he had was to see if he could get Commissioner Shea and Commissioner Daugherty to co-sponsor this project. And I'm sure that he thought, I'm not real sure that I can make that happen. You know, this is a program that I must say, when I was first approached, I was frightened when Charlene came and laid the thing out for me because I knew so little about it. And one of the things that you're always a little careful of is when you don't know enough about something, you fear that you may not know what you don't know. And that was something that I kind of pushed Charlene on. Charlene, you know, I really have to thank you for this. I know there are a lot of people in this room that need to be thanked, but Charlene Heidinger is the one that really got this thing out of the blocks. And I can remember telling her, I said, the biggest issue that you're going to have is no one wants to be first doing anything. You don't mind being first in a race, but you are very, very careful about what it is that you are going to take on if you are a little fearful of not knowing all the things that you think that you need to know. Thank goodness you persevered. She continued to knock down blocks, which made it really, really easy for me to be convinced that, you know, this really is a program that needs to be offered to so many people. Thank goodness that we have people that have gotten to the table to participate, especially from a lending standpoint, because quite frankly, without that, you really can't get something like this out of the starting blocks. I'm delighted to be part of this program. I'm really excited to be present at the first one. I think we should all be proud of ourselves for getting to the table, making sure that we are all comfortable with what we are doing. But I couldn't be more proud of being part of a program, and I certainly am proud of sharing this with my colleague, Commissioner Shea. Thank you very much for teaming up with me on this. Again, thank you all for coming this morning, and this is the start of what I think is going to be a great program in Central Texas and throughout the state. So thank you again for coming.
Well, the other half of our dynamic duo, who co-sponsored PACE in Travis County, has a long and distinguished record for environmental activism and energy conservation here in Travis County. Please welcome Commissioner Brigid Shea.
There really are, this reminds me that, what is it, failure has many orphans and success has many parents. There are so many people here who worked to make this happen, and I'd like folks to just raise their hands if you had anything to do with bringing PACE into being and making it work here in Austin and in Texas. So just, don't be shy, Mansour, come on, Jonathan, come on, raise your hands, all of you. Just look around. There were many, many people, and I especially want to give credit to Bruce Elfant, who went to, through 3 legislative sessions, testifying on the importance of this, and especially Charlene Heidinger, who really was the mother hen and much more in making this happen. You should know that this was a very unusual coalition. It isn't just the Gerald Daugherty and Brigid Shea bipartisan roadshow. I mean, that's got some unique qualities all to itself. But at the legislature, the coalition included the Texas Association of Business and the Environmental Defense Fund. And they are rarely hand in hand on anything. And in fact, Steve Minnick from the Texas Association of Business tells people the hardest job he had was convincing legislators that there wasn't some trick, there wasn't some hidden motive, there wasn't something wrong with this, because if the Environmental Defense Fund favored it, well, there must be something wrong with it. And he said he spent most of his time in legislators' offices trying to convince them that no, it was good for business. That's why the Texas Association of Business wanted it. So we really can be proud of the incredibly important work that so many leaders in Travis County and Austin did to make this happen. And I think that we've learned from these PACE programs in other states. And I think it's probably fair to say we always think we're bigger and smarter and prettier and the number one in so many things in Texas. I think in this case it is true. I think we've got one of the best PACE programs in the country. And part of it is because we also, I think, have more market openness in this program. So not only will you see our community, and hopefully this is going to spread all across Texas, saving energy, reducing pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, saving water, but doing things that are great for the economy. We're helping nonprofits and houses of worship. We will be helping business owners. A lot of commercial building owners don't upgrade their buildings. And I've heard from many people in this industry that older office buildings sometimes run their heating and air conditioning simultaneously because it's easier, and they don't pay the utility bills. The owners of the buildings generally don't pay the utility bills, so it hasn't been in their financial self-interest to invest in upgrading their systems. Well, we've solved that. The PACE program solves that. So my elevator speech to people in the commercial business field is, this is a program that allows you to upgrade your asset on someone else's nickel. And oh, by the way, the someone else's nickel is the tenant. The tenant saves money on their water and electric bills. So this is one of those rare win-win-wins that we don't see all that often, where something is great for the environment and great for the economy. And I'm pleased to be a part of it, and I've committed to be an evangelist anywhere I can be around Texas on this, and I really want to applaud Rabbi Folberg and the congregation as well for being the first PACE project in Texas. So let's hear it for all of us.
Thank you, Commissioner. And now we're going to present some certificates to the folks that helped make this first project happen. Certainly the borrower, the lender, the contractor, and the PACE in the Box folks. So, and Charlene is going to help me do this. How do we want to? We'll start with Rabbi Folberg and Jennifer Smith. Where do you want us?
Just you do what the photographer says and nobody gets hurt.
The next one is to I don't see it on here.
Petros.
Oh, Petros PACE Financing, Mansour Gori. Next, we have the Way Companies, David Cooper.
It is. I'm bringing up the team that really made this happen here to be with me on this. So.
Thank you.
Scott Jarman with Austin Energy.
Good
Okay, and this is for our PACE Authority, Jonathan Blackburn and Charlene Heidiger. Congratulations. Before I proceed, we've been joined by former council member Bill Spellman. And Bill is an old friend and a neighbor. We're happy to have you. But Bill's significance to this event is that Bill was the one who introduced me to PACE to begin with. Before I was even tax assessor, he took me to lunch and said, when you get into office, you have to make this a priority in Texas. And that's how I got involved in PACE and met Charlene and all the other people that we worked with at the Capitol to get this legislation passed. And Bill, thank you for being here. And thank you for introducing me to PACE, and we can finally check this off the list. So thank you. Our next speaker didn't ask to speak and didn't want to speak, but I told her she was going to have to speak. Charlene Heidiger is really the mother of PACE in Texas. She was the mother hen down at the Capitol, making sure that this legislation remained on track, not because it had so much opposition, but legislation that is kind of supportive, but it's not, in the top priority of either party, tends to get lost in the way down there. And Charlene was the one to make sure that it kept moving, and finally got passed and had the right provisions in there, so we had the authority to actually implement it. And she was the one who made that happen. And then when we got the legislation, she was the one who led the efforts to develop PACE in a Box, which is the resource guide for us and everybody throughout the state to create PACE programs. And then she became the executive director of the PACE Authority. So please help me welcome the mother of PACE in Texas, Charlene Heidiger.
This is like my own Mother's Day. And so we have all these wonderful children who've tried to learn in the heat. Is it going to be easier with air conditioning? Yes, all right. There are some wonderful PACE projects being developed in Travis County, and the Congregation Beth Israel wasn't the first application, but it was the first to close, the first to be done. It's incredibly meaningful to me that we are celebrating in this sacred space. Genesis 2:15 says, God took Adam into the garden to work it and to care for it. Commerce and the environment, to work it and to care for it. And so for those of us who see Texas as the Garden of Eden, PACE is a wonderful place where we can do our commerce and we can protect our environment. And this is a wonderful place to celebrate all that. I think if everyone who worked on PACE were up here today receiving the credit that you deserve, there would be no one left in the audience. So for those of us who have been passionate about this for 4 years, this is a wonderful culmination of all that work. But it is also truly the beginning. And so from strength to strength, I can't think of a greater blessing as we move forward. And great things are going to come from this, and all of you should take part in that celebration, and I'm very grateful. So there are two people that haven't been accurately and properly thanked yet, and one is Bruce Elfant. So all of us get a certificate for Bruce. And the second is Craig Smith, who's done all the legal work and supporting all of us to make this happen.
Getting close. But I do want, before I close, I didn't know the awards are coming, but I do want to thank Craig Smith, who was tasked to create our PACE program here in Travis County. from concept to contract. We didn't have a lot to work with. We looked at other models around the country and decided that wasn't the Texas way. So we had to create the Texas way, and Craig created it from whole cloth. And to the benefit of all these other counties who are going to follow us, Craig did the work for them, and we're grateful for that. You in large part helped make this day possible. So thank you, Craig. So in closing, Temple Beth Israel is not going to be the largest PACE deal in Travis County or in Texas. But they went first, and that is a big deal that they went first, and we're very proud and grateful that they did. I expect to approve several more PACE projects in the coming months, and we hope that and look forward to PACE projects sprouting up throughout Texas. PACE is good government because it incentivizes conservation and finite resources, and it's good for business because it's a good way to help them reduce their energy costs, and will benefit in our environment through conservation and reducing our carbon footprint. Thank you to our state legislature. Thank you to our commissioners court, everyone who helped pass this legislation and create our local PACE model, our lenders, our contractors, and finally, Temple Beth Israel for having the courage to be the first PACE project in Texas. So thank you all for being here, and please join us in the Helen and Milton Auditorium for refreshments. Thank you all for being here.